Could 800,000 non-citizens become eligible to vote in the city of New York and in their elections? The answer might surprise you coming up at 11. No. Yeah, it's a very real possibility. You see, there's a court case happening in front of New York's highest court. The arguments are set to happen tomorrow regarding a controversial law that would allow non-citizens to vote in New York City municipal elections. This legislation, if upheld, could potentially add around 800,000 new voters to the city's electorate. Voters, I should remind you, are not American citizens. This is an article from Fox News titled 800,000 non-citizens could soon be voting in New York City's elections. They write, New York's top court will consider a law allowing non-citizens to register to vote in New York City's elections this week. The court will hear arguments in the case on Tuesday, with lawyers for Democrats arguing, of course it's Democrats, in favor of legislation the city already passed to allow non-citizen voters. If successful, the over 800,000 non-citizens living in the Big Apple would be able to cast ballots in city-level contests like mayoral elections. Proponents of the bill claim non-citizens are being unfairly taxed. The attorney for the city wrote in a filing, in 5 city council districts, non-U.S. citizens make up about a third of the adult population. These New Yorkers pay billions in taxes and yet have no say in local policies on public safety, garbage collection, or housing, all matters that affect their day-to-day lives. But they're not citizens. Their votes shouldn't override that of a U.S. citizen. But he doesn't really care, does he? Meanwhile, Republicans in the city are flabbergasted by this effort, pointing to language in the state constitution granting voting rights to every citizen, not non-citizen. It's hard to discuss because it's crazy. It's even an issue, said State Senator Andrew Lanza, a State Island Republican, who told Politico this. Citizens ought to vote. If you're not a citizen of a country, you should not have a say. New York's state constitution states, every citizen shall be entitled to vote at every election for all officers elected by the people, and upon all questions submitted to the vote of the people. An appellate court had already sided with Republicans on the issue last year in a 3-1 ruling. The panel of judges found an, quote, irrefutable inference applies that non-citizens were intended to be excluded from those entitled to vote. And again, this is common sense. Once you allow non-citizens to vote, you are diluting the power of U.S. citizens in their right to vote. Anyway, Fox News goes on to write, the case comes amid a burgeoning race among Democrats to replace New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who remains embroiled in legal trouble. Adams' administration has struggled to handle a massive influx of illegal immigrants in recent years. City residents have complained about the accommodation methods of migrants as well. Furious residents expressed their anger Monday after hearing they were powerless to stop a massive 2,200 male-only migrant shelter, illegal alien shelter, from opening in their neighborhood, raising concerns that the new facility will make their community less safe, especially for women. So here's the basic points of this bill that they're trying to push through the courts. If the bill were allowed to become law, it would allow green card holders and people with work permits who have lived in New York City for at least 30 days to then be able to vote in municipal elections. The law would also apply to local elections, such as those for mayor, city council, and other municipal offices, meaning non-citizens could choose who is running the city of New York. That does sound crazy, doesn't it? Now, the bill doesn't directly extend voting rights to illegal aliens or apply to state and federal elections, but you better bet your bottom dollar it'll lead to that. Now, the law was passed back in 2021 and became effective in January of 2022, but Republicans quickly challenged the law, obviously, leading to its nullification by lower courts. And so now it's before the New York Court of Appeals, which is their highest court. The supporters of this bill are arguing that, hey, these non-citizens, they contribute billions of dollars in taxes. They should have a say in local policies that affect their daily lives. Why? It would enhance political representation and, of course, the dreaded inclusivity for immigrants. It is the same tired argument that they make over and over again. But don't be fooled, my friends. There is a long game, a long con being run here. The more people that you have here that don't have any allegiance to the United States, the easier it is to change the country from the way it was founded. And I should also point out that while this law technically doesn't allow illegal aliens to vote, As we've seen in California, once you open this door and you have a voter registration system that doesn't even require you to prove citizenship or legal residency for that matter to vote, you have essentially opened the door and allowed those who have broken the law to break in and enter the country and now access your right to voting. This would inevitably lead to these people being able to change laws in their local jurisdictions. I'm going to play this clip for you. This was taken back in 2018. This is Fox News Business. This is in California. Listen to this exchange. This is wild.
We don't call them illegals. They're undocumented immigrants who contribute to our economy.
Right.
They
Who are
spend
here
money in our
illegally,
stores.
right?
They buy property. They provide services for us, just like anyone else.
By the way, that's a whole new term, right? That just sprung up in the last couple of years because somehow now it's politically incorrect to actually say if you're here illegally that you're here illegally. Are they here illegally?
Human beings cannot be illegal.
Are they here legally or
Imagine
illegally?
actually believing that.
Human beings cannot be illegal.
What an
What
idiot.
about the status of these people?
They certainly can.
In terms of the actual adjective that you would use
Here it
to
comes.
describe whether they are here illegally or legally.
There it is.
Undocumented is their
Meaning
status.
illegal.
So, illegal aliens who are here in the United States now being allowed to vote for the school board. Where does it stop? Should they be able to vote for more than just the school board, do you think?
I think that people who are raising families, contributing to our economy, should have a say on how things happen in the government that they support. So I definitely think
This is the long-term plan. You've got this guy out and out telling you, telegraphing what the long-term goal is. People who have a globalist idea and who hate nationalism and think that the world should be one big kumbaya paradise playground, they don't like the fact that it's all about having regional voting. So wherever you live, then that's where you're a citizen of. You should have rights, which then destroys the individuality of each nation. So it's not just an American problem, it's a global problem where this is spreading. The Democrat Party has allowed themselves to be infested with these kinds of people. This lunacy is one of the reasons why they got decimated in the 2024 elections. People are awake to this now. They don't want mass migration because they understand that eventually it means that their rights as U.S. citizens will become secondary to those who do not belong here.
I think that we need to allow more protections and more opportunities for our undocumented immigrants
So, hey, listen, if I'm Hillary Clinton and I decide to run again in 2020, I'm saying, hey, open up the floodgates. Everybody, welcome
And
to
they did,
America.
didn't they?
Everybody who wants to come in, hey, just stay
This
a
was
couple
prophetic.
weeks. Why not? Vote for me.
Well, although there was no Hillary Clinton.
How does that make any sense, Shaman?
I appreciate you saying welcome to America because that's something I stand for as well. So thank you for saying that.
Now, why all of this matters is this isn't a new fight. There are already several municipalities across the country that allow some form of non-citizen voting, primarily in local elections. The situation in New York is highlighting, though, that the never-ending push to give away our rights as citizens is never changing and continues. Supporters of non-citizens voting in local elections will constantly argue that, hey, legal residents, they contribute to their communities through taxes and civic engagement. Why, again, it'll enhance that representation and inclusivity. But that's just a slippery slope. Once you have normalized non-citizens voting, it's just a matter of time. As non-citizens become more common in local elections, it will eventually spread throughout the country. This whole fight will morph into, it's a human right that must be granted for people who pay taxes and participate in the communities. They'll equate it to slavery. Why, they're second-class citizens. We can't do that. It's America's original sin. We can't repeat that. Well, then the political pressure will truly kick in. Because politicians are always looking for a new voter bloc in their local and state and federal elections. That pressure from politicians to increase their voter base will mount until eventually you will see state and federal elections altered and changed. Politicians are inherently self-centered and greedy. It's part of the gig. You have to have an ego like nobody else to be a politician. That's just the way it is. And so because of this, having a huge opportunity to extend your base is going to be a temptation that far too many will not fight against. Until eventually you'll wake up one day and find yourself fighting to stop a nationwide fight to give non-citizens voting rights in federal elections up to the presidency. As for the court case, well, we can only wait and see what happens next.